Hello guys, this is just another follow-up video about Atlas 3I regarding some of the forecasts I've been making and in particular regarding the previous two videos I've made. So what I was basically saying then in the previous two videos is that we should watch out for something that may happen on either of these two dates. 25th October 2089, that is 11 hours 44 minutes. That's the perihelion time for Atlas 3I when it reaches its closest approach to the Sun. And also another time, which is the 3rd of November, 5 hours 56 minutes. That's the time when Atlas 3I reaches its closest approach to Venus, but it's the distance between Atlas 3I and the Earth at that time that's significant. So these are the two distances in white here in figures in miles. The perihelion distance when Atlas 3I is closest to the Sun is about 126 million miles. And it's about 209.6 million miles for the other date. And what I was saying was that we may get possibly either solar flares, CME events on either of these two dates, or even possibly increased seismic activity or earthquakes. Well, we've just gone past the first timestamp here because Atlas 3I just reached perihelion just a day or so ago, and it looks like I was correct about one of these things. And the CME event which occurred, and there's been quite a few, but we've got a recording of a CME event which occurred here, and this is the specific Space Weather Live page, and it's time stamped here. You can see it's 29th of October, 12 minutes just past midnight, or just 12 minutes into the 29th, and you can see the class type here. It's a angular width greater than 270 degrees, full halo CME, potential full halo CME. And oddly enough, the one which I just discussed in my previous video was the one on the 21st, which is of the same type. You can see it's got that same marker here. So we've just had this event then occur just a day or so ago, and this event would appear to be tied in via the ratio I discussed in my previous video. It was the first one I did, and this was the connection I made. This is a slide looking at some of the values. So this is what I presented in the first video I did, and I've also showed this on a few other presentations. I've done some interviews with other people. So what I basically said was that there was a connection between the X 1.9 flare which occurred June the 19th, 23 hours 37 minutes, and at that distance, or rather at that time, the distance between Atlas 3I and the Sun was this value here, this 453 value, 453.9 million miles or so. And I said that if you take that distance and divide it by the perihelion distance of Atlas 3I, what it will get to when you get to 29th of October, just a day or so ago, you get this almost dead on 3.6 value. And now the fraction 18 divided by 5 is 3.6. And so if you want a better explanation, obviously if you follow my work you'll know where I'm coming from, but it's more fully explained in my first video. So this is why I suggested we could see some kind of event occur at perihelion which may trigger some other event, if not a solar flare like this one, but maybe a CME, or seismic activity. So did we get one? Well, yes we did, and it was the one I just mentioned. But there's a few little points to just note here just before we move on. Firstly, just to clarify, these distances that you see here, the Atlas 3I modelling ephemeris, it's always been updated and there are slight changes to it, okay? So the perihelion event, as of me doing this video, is actually via the horizon system. It took place 11 hours 47 minutes. And so this value here, this 126 million, is slightly different. And the other point to note is, when I was looking at this connection with this 3.6 value, the reason why I suggested this was important is because of the really exacting nature of the fraction when you tie together the perihelion event at an exact moment to the start of the activity for the X 1.9 flare. which is 23 hours 37 minutes on June the 19th. The maximum point, the 2350, you can see here, that's when the flare just burst out, when you had the big bright flash. The start of the activity is where you start to get an agitation on the sun, which is recorded, and it was 13 minutes later that the flare just occurred, okay? So the mathematics in that previous analysis seemed to give you this 3.6 connection, very accurately tying the starting point of the X1.9 flare to almost perfectly the perihelion of Atlas 3I. Well, when we look now at the flare in question, which appears to be the connecting flare, it occurred here at just 12 minutes into the 29th. So it's about 11 and a half hours prior to perihelion, okay? And so this gives us a slightly different tie-in, but just before I proceed, I'll show you at least the flare in question. And here are 6 slides building up to it and just going beyond it. So the first one, as you can see here, and it's at the 28th day, 23:48 minutes, and these go in stages of 12 minutes, right? So you can see here the sun, not much to see, slight bright part here, but not really anything unusual, because if you go into the next slide here, bang on midnight, it's almost identical to that one. But when you then go here, the 12-minute mark, the one highlighted in yellow, that's the timestamp for the event, because now you can see this brighter part here, which is different to what you see preceding. So here you can definitely see then that you do have the beginning of the flare. And if you then go to the point here, as you can see at the end, this is where in the bottom left, the flare obviously is broken out, and then these other subsequent slides here, you can see the full thing. So this is the CME then that occurred at this time then. So, but the starting point of the CME is 12 minutes, okay? So let's just get on with the analysis then and just look at how accurate that 3.6 ratio is. So if we're here then, you can see the Atlas Horizon system. We've selected Atlas, it's 3I, but that's the code C/2025N1. We've got the sun as the other observer location. So we're working out the distances between Atlas 3I and the sun, and we set the timestamp to an accuracy down to minute steps, okay? So here's what we've got then. This then is the timestamps. This is what you get then if you isolate the precise CME eruption event, 12 minutes past midnight, and if you go all the way across, these values are in universal, in astronomical units, 1.356 or so. This value here, I've reproduced it in red at the top of the screen here, yeah? So that is the distance between Atlas 3I and the sun at the precise moment when the CME event just occurred, okay, in astronomical units. Now 1 AU is the mean distance between the Earth and the sun. If we just think about this 3.6 multiplier then, okay, to tie it into the 1.9x flare, if we multiply the value there, 1.356 by 3.6, we get this value here. So what I'm saying then is this value, this 4.88 value, this value is the distance between Atlas 3I and the sun when the X1.9 flare occurred in June, or it is very, very close, and I'm going to show you just how close. So if we just go further and switch the values here, I've just transformed it now so you can see this here is the distance value, this distance value in red, the 4.88. We've got from JPL, if we reproduce it, the closest match we've got here, if you go all the way across, the timestamp we see that Atlas 3I had the distance from the sun in red here, 4.8822 AU, at 23 hours 56 minutes June the 19th, right? So when was that flare? Well, if you look here from the archives, the flare maximum, not the start, but the maximum is 23:50 on 19th of June. So it's basically this top line right here. So you can see basically we are 6 minutes in error 6-minute discrepancy, okay? So that's the time. So I do think that 3.6 ratio connection that I mentioned in that first video I did a few weeks back now is valid. So it does tie together the solar flare connected to Atlas 3I, which occurred in June, and this CME eruption, which occurred about 11.5 hours just before its most accurate perihelion. I do think there's a connection. I do think Atlas 3I, based on this, was in some way causally responsible for triggering the X1.9 flare, and also causally responsible for triggering that CME event that we just had. I think the mathematics with intolerances is very good. 6-minute discrepancy, I can live with that. So I do think that the mathematics is good. The time appears to be closer to the maximum for the X1.9 flare, the 2350. So that's all I've got for you guys. So I do think then there is the connection there, and the event, as I forecast, did play out. It was this CME event, just about 11.5 hours before the optimum perihelion for Atlas 3I. So we'll leave it there. If you want to know more about my research, obviously go to my website, loststagesecrets.com. If you scroll to the bottom, you can buy my books. And we still do have the 3rd of November as another date, so I'll keep you posted. If anything happens on that date, I'll do a further analysis. But that's it for today.